In a big mansion, the young butler approached the quiet mansion with a composed but uneasy look. Stopping before a door, he knocked softly and called to her. When no answer came, he opened the door with careful hesitation, announcing his entry as worry shadowed his eyes. As Arx stepped inside, Eleanor rushed to him with a force born of fear and longing, grabbing hold of him before he could say a word. Her breath trembled against his shoulder, petals scattering around them like the remnants of a storm she'd barely survived. She demanded to know where he had been, her voice sharp with panic even as relief softened her expression. Held tightly in her arms, Arx could only murmur her name, startled by how fiercely she clung to him, so much so that the girl once known as a feared Yandere Villainess now seemed entirely overcome by her devotion to him. Arx reflects on the world he now lives in, the kingdom that once existed only as the setting of a popular Otome game. Eleanor, whose intense devotion now overwhelms him in reality, had been notorious in the game for her cruel deeds and destructive paths. Surrounded by the cast of major characters, she had always stood at the center of dramatic routes and countless endings. But Arx himself remembers something crucial: in every storyline the game ever offered, someone like him never appeared. He was never meant to matter in this world at all. Arx admits that being a background character never truly bothered him. In this crowded game world, he remembers almost nothing of his past life, only that he once lived in Japan. Unlike the usual reincarnation stories where the protagonist uses past world knowledge to excel, he recalls nothing useful. The only thing that remains clear to him is this one Otome game, and for reasons he can't explain, it's the sole fragment of his former life that refuses to fade. Arx reflects on his quiet life in the orphanage, aware he has no family in this world and no special role to play. He wonders why he was even reincarnated here, yet he refuses to believe his life will stay insignificant forever. Even as a powerless background character, he imagines the possibilities: wielding magic, attending a prestigious academy, or stumbling into some life-changing chance. The thought sparks a faint hope that somewhere out there, an opportunity still waits for him. Determined to make the most of this world, Arx throws himself into daily training. With a wooden sword in hand, he practices with fierce energy, each swing sharper than the last. His strikes meet his opponent's weapon with forceful clanks until he finally drives the man back with a decisive blow. Even without special powers, he works tirelessly, hoping effort alone will carve out a place for him in this world. Arx wins the match with ease, leaving his opponent laughing in defeat and admitting surrender. The villagers cheer in excitement, amazed that he managed to defeat every adult in town. Standing there catching his breath, Arx realizes his hard work is already beginning to show results. Arx laughs off the praise he receives, unable to admit he only trained so hard because he had nothing else to do in this world. A younger child looks up to him, asking if they could become strong like him too, and Arx encourages them with an easy smile. He knows his strength is mostly useful for protecting the village from nearby monsters, and he doesn't expect it to lead to anything grand. Even so, the village director approaches with warm applause, offering genuine congratulations that make Arx stand a little straighter. The director praises Arx warmly, insisting that someone as capable as him could even become a knight one day. Arx laughs off the idea, thinking it impossible for a commoner, yet the compliment still makes him glow with shy pride. Then the director's smile softens, and he mentions that he has a favor to ask, leaving Arx curious about what he could possibly want from him. Arx finds himself sitting nervously inside an elegant mansion, his heart pounding as he wonders why he's been brought somewhere so luxurious. The director reassures him, explaining that someone in this place has been eager to meet him. Hearing that, Arx can only stare in surprise, unsure why anyone important would want to see him at all. A refined nobleman enters, introducing himself as Adalbert Ancinous, the count who governs the region. Arx is stunned that someone so important has come to meet him. The count explains he's heard of Arx's achievements and has summoned him for a significant favor. As the director confirms Arx is the boy they discussed, Arx can only wonder why someone of such rank would need anything from him. The count finally reveals his request. He wants Arx to become a friend to his daughter. The wording leaves Arx stunned, wondering why a noble would go so far just for that. The count hints that his daughter has a troublesome side, which only makes Arx more nervous about what kind of girl she might be. Then he calls her in Eleanor, prompting Arx to realize something important just as she enters the room. When Eleanor steps in, Arx freezes in shock. The girl the count wanted him to befriend is none other than Eleanor Ancinous. She introduced herself with calm politeness that contrasts sharply with the infamous reputation he only now just remembers. Arx panics internally as he remembers who Eleanor truly is in the game, the ruthless villainess who tormented the heroine, dabbled in curses, and eventually became the final boss. The idea of befriending someone like that leaves him frozen with dread. Yet the count cheerfully encourages them to talk, while Eleanor timidly steps forward, leaving Arx wondering how he's supposed to befriend the girl who once embodied pure malice in the story he knew. Arx walks beside Eleanor through the estate's garden, painfully aware of how awkward the silence feels. While he struggles with the situation, she calmly comments on how beautiful the garden is and how it never grows dull to look at. Her quiet sincerity catches him off guard, leaving him unsure how to respond. As they walk, Arx realizes Eleanor barely shows any expression, which only makes him more tense. Yet when he actually looks at her, he can't deny how striking she is, quiet, graceful, and far more beautiful than any girl he's seen. Even with her aloof demeanor, something about her draws his eyes, leaving him unexpectedly captivated. As they walk, Arx notices Eleanor suddenly stop and lower her head, her small frame trembling with uncertainty. Worried he may have upset her, he gently asks if she's feeling unwell and suggests they return to the mansion. But she only curls in on herself further, leaving Arx confused and concerned by her sudden change in demeanor. Eleanor finally lifts her head, her voice barely above a whisper as she assumes the worst, that Arx doesn't want to be her friend. It catches him completely off guard, leaving him stunned and speechless as he realizes how deeply his awkwardness affected her. Eleanor lowers her gaze and quietly assumes Arx must despise her like everyone else, calling herself accursed. She admits people avoid her because they fear misfortune just from being near her. The weight of those rumors hangs over her, leaving Arx stunned by how deeply they've hurt her. Eleanor explains how people once approached her only because she was a noble's child, but the moment they saw her black eyes and hair, fear took over. Rumors of her being cursed spread quickly, and even harmless gestures were mistaken for dangerous magic. Soon, no one spoke to her at all, only cold, fearful looks remained. Eleanor tells Arx she's already used to being feared, believing people are right to react that way. As she reaches toward a rose, it wilts at her touch, a sight that makes Arx jolt in shock. Her quiet resignation and the eerie withering of the flower leave him speechless. Eleanor reveals the full extent of her power, showing how anything she touches withers, its color draining away as if life itself recoils from her. Arx watches in shock, realizing her magic is far stronger and far more frightening than he ever imagined. Even plants, and possibly people, crumble at her touch. Eleanor looks down at her hands, her voice soft and resigned as she tells Arx he should understand now, she's a cursed child. Holding the withered flowers, she accepts this as an unchangeable truth, leaving Arx stricken by how calmly she carries such loneliness. Arx realizes for the first time just how much Eleanor has suffered. The Count's request echoes in his mind, and Arx begins to wonder if his reincarnation had a purpose after all. If he stays by her side, if he reaches out to her now, maybe he can change the tragic fate she was destined for. Arx makes up his mind. If this world is heading toward the tragic ending he remembers, then he'll change its course himself. To save Eleanor and guide the story toward a happy ending, he realizes he must grow closer to her and prevent the bad end from ever happening. Determined to change her fate, Arx tells Eleanor she isn't frightening at all. He insists she's nothing to be feared and, flustered but sincere, blurts out that she's unbelievably beautiful. His sudden confession leaves Eleanor stunned, her cheeks flushing as she tries to process his words. Eleanor worries her power might hurt someone, but Arx refuses to let that be the end of it. He insists there must be a better way to use her strength, and even if things go wrong, he promises he'll find a way to deal with it. His resolve leaves Eleanor staring at him in stunned disbelief, as the wilted roses behind him slowly bloom again. Arx steps toward Eleanor with quiet determination, telling her he wants a future where no one suffers, including her. His sincerity leaves her trembling, and when he reaches out, the roses in her hands bloom once more. Overwhelmed, she looks up at him, and he gently asks her to be his friend. Her eyes widen in surprise as the moment marks the beginning of a changed fate for them both. Memories of cruel voices echo in Eleanor's mind, people calling her cursed, a devil, something filthy to avoid. Curling in on herself, she relives how everyone shrank away from her. But as she trembles inside the dark haze, she suddenly notices something approaching. Eleanor trembles in the dark, calling out for her mother. When the figure steps closer, she lifts her eyes in confused. Eleanor looks up in trembling hope, whispering the word again as if confirming it to herself. Eleanor reaches toward the woman she thought was her mother, but the woman coldly tells her to stop and not look at her with those eyes. The rejection hits her instantly, her breath breaks, and she collapses into apology after apology, trembling as the pain of being unwanted sinks in all over again. Eleanor dreams of her trauma and apologizes for even being born. She wakes up gasping, and Arx, worried, rushes to her side, asking if she's okay after seeing her suffer through a nightmare. She wakes up confused, and Arx gently explains she fell asleep in her room from exhaustion, which is likely why she had a bad dream. She looks blank and tearful from the nightmare, startling Arx, who panics as she suddenly starts crying. Arx hugs her as she cries, comforting her. Her heart steadies as she realizes she already has a friend now. Eleanor is afraid of getting close to Arx because she believes her curse will only hurt him, just like people told her her whole life. She thinks he would be happier with someone else. Arx rejects that idea completely. He tells her that no one goes through life without hurting others, and being with her would make him happy, not unhappy. When she tries to pull away emotionally, he grabs her hand to stop her, showing he genuinely wants to stay by her side. Arx finally says clearly that he wants Eleanor and no one else. Hearing this, Eleanor hesitates for a moment but then accepts his feelings. She bows slightly, asks him to please take care of me, and the two officially agree to get along as friends. Eleanor apologizes again out of habit, but Arx quickly tells her she never needs to. He even jokes that his chest is always open for her to cry on. His sincerity makes her smile softly, admitting he truly is kind. Arx tells her he only did what any friend would, but Eleanor grows uncertain. She quietly admits she's never had anyone she could even call an ally, and wonders if she's worthy of being his friend at all. Arx reassures her that friendship isn't something she has to perfect, it comes in many forms. He tells her he simply follows what feels right, reminding her that communication improves with practice. Hearing this, Eleanor begins to see that she can learn how to connect with others, one step at a time. Arx suggests they take things slowly, and Eleanor agrees with a gentle smile. He reflects that life is far longer than we think, there's plenty of time for them to grow, learn, and move forward together at their own pace. A few weeks later, Arx realizes Eleanor has changed a lot. She cheerfully shows him blooming flowers, offers him pastries, and excitedly points out the stars, completely different from the withdrawn girl she used to be. Overwhelmed, Arx thinks her transformation is way too dramatic. Even now she keeps calling out to him with bright energy. Eleanor leans in, pouting as she asks if he's even listening, and Arx snaps out of his thoughts, flustered. Even so, he can't help smiling, because her liveliness now is so cute that it genuinely makes him happy. Eleanor gets annoyed, asking if something is more important than her question. Arx immediately panics and denies it, taking her hand and sincerely telling her, "There is nothing more important to me than you, Eleanor-sama." Eleanor immediately bursts out laughing, finding his sudden ego boost funny. Arx starts bragging to himself, saying he is actually quite handsome. He imagines girls fawning over him, then gets flustered when she pushes him to answer her actual question. "Just tell me what kind of clothes you like." She wants his fashion preferences, while he's busy daydreaming. Eleanor's father, Adalbert, shows up and asks to speak with him alone. Eleanor instantly looks upset. Adalbert apologizes to Eleanor and takes Arx away for a talk, and Arx realizes she's mad or worried. Eleanor pretends she doesn't care that Arx was taken away, acting annoyed and turning away. But Arx leans in close to her, calling her name gently. Arx gently tells Eleanor that anything would look beautiful on her as long as she's the one wearing it. She blushes hard at the compliment. Meanwhile, her father watches silently from behind, clearly noticing their closeness. Eleanor's father tells Arx that the request he made earlier has been approved. Arx will officially join the Yanciness household starting next week. Arx is thrilled and thanks him, but Adalbert hints there's still something serious he wants to say. Adalbert then asks if Arx is really okay with the arrangement, since he could have offered Arx a place to live. But Arx politely insists that he doesn't want to use Adalbert's position or rely on his authority. He's genuinely grateful just to have a job. Hearing this, Adalbert is taken aback and impressed. He can't believe such a mature and responsible answer is coming from a 7-year-old, and he praises Arx as truly admirable. Arx realizes that Adalbert chose him to be Eleanor's friend because he understood her situation and treated her kindly. He smiles and says he'll do his absolute best for her. Adalbert is impressed that Arx grasped so much on his own. But before starting his new role, Arx says there's one thing he wants to do first, hinting at something important he has planned. Eleanor is upset because Arx took too long talking with her father. Arx hesitates at the door, realizing she's genuinely mad. When he knocks and calls her name, she sits waiting with a sad, frustrated expression, showing she wasn't just angry, but also anxious and hurt that he kept her waiting. She's pouting and obviously angry, thinking he must have been having fun while she sat alone worrying. Arx kneels and officially introduces himself as Eleanor's personal attendant. This is something he asked her father for earlier. He wants to stay by her side, support her, protect her, and help her not feel alone anymore. Eleanor is overwhelmed and emotional because Arx is choosing to stay with her not out of obligation, but because he wants to be with her. This scene shows the mansion in the middle of preparing for an important event. The main hall is being set up, and all the staff members are running around trying to fix last-minute problems. Some issues come up, like not having enough glasses, and the aperitif, the welcome drink, being changed, so they need to quickly contact the supplier. Everyone is rushing to make sure everything is ready in time. It's basically pre-event chaos, with the staff doing their best to get everything perfect. 3 years have passed since Arx became a servant in Eleanor's household. Eleanor is now almost 10 years old, which is considered an important milestone in their world. Ages that are multiples of 10 are celebrated with big, lavish parties. Because of that, everyone in the mansion is extremely busy preparing for Eleanor's upcoming birthday celebration. Arx is overwhelmed by all the chaos but also notes that this will be his first time attending a noble's party. A maid called Nanai tells him the hall preparations are finally complete. Arx is exhausted from all the party preparations. Nanai checks on him, notices he looks tired, and thanks him for his hard work. She tells him that thanks to him, everything is ready for Eleanor's birthday party. Arx is relieved to hear that, but then he starts feeling uneasy, as if something is bothering him even though he doesn't know why yet. Arx, even though he's only 10, has somehow ended up in charge of organizing Eleanor's big birthday party. All the servants keep running to him for instructions because he's efficient, reliable, and smart. Arx is confused about how he ended up as the boss, since he only gave some simple, practical advice based on his past life's common sense. Nanai praises him, saying he's amazing not just because he has good ideas, but because he takes action and leads by example. Arx feels overwhelmed but can't really deny it. Arx says all his hard work is for Eleanor's. It's their first big party since they met, and he wants to make it special so he can see her truly happy and smiling. Because of that, he doesn't mind being tired at all. He then uses his magic. He immediately uses healing magic, Revitalize, on himself to recover his energy. Nanai is shocked because he suddenly looks completely fine, changed clothes, and is ready to go train. He cheerfully tells her, "Let's do our best," and says he'll see her tomorrow, leaving her stunned by how energetic he is despite everything. Arx is training alone at night, slashing at a practice dummy until he's exhausted. Just as he decides he's done for the day, someone suddenly calls his name from behind, surprising him. Eleanor reveals she's been watching Arx training for a while, surprising him. He panics and apologizes because he didn't notice her at all. Then he scolds her gently. "Why would you do that? You'll catch a cold." Eleanor then say, "Even so, Arx will warm me up, right?" Eleanor basically hints that she wants Arx to warm her up personally, not with magic. Arx is completely caught off guard. Arx panics internally, thinking, "Isn't that something you could do yourself?" Eleanor shyly admits she's upset because Arx has been so busy that he barely visits her anymore. She tries to cover it up by saying it's because he's her servant and should stay by her side, but it's clear she just misses him. Arx, flustered, apologizes sincerely and explains he really has been overwhelmed with work. He explains that everything he's been doing is to make her birthday celebration truly magnificent. Hearing that, she calms down. Though still a little embarrassed, she accepts his explanation and admits that tomorrow is an important day, so she can't really complain. Eleanor hesitates, then quietly asks Arx if he ever feels lonely living in their mansion without his own family. Arx is surprised by the question and reassures her with a bright smile that he isn't lonely at all. Adalbert and the servants treat him kindly, so he feels comfortable and welcomed. Eleanor, however, looks troubled, clearly hoping for a different answer. Eleanor walks off clearly upset, stomping as she goes. She tells Arx to take care of everything tomorrow, but she's cold and distant. Arx is confused and wonders if he accidentally made her angry. As they walk, he sneezes, showing he really was cold. Adalbert begins the party with a formal greeting to the guests. While speaking, he quietly calls out to Arx. Arx responds politely, not realizing Adalbert has a private instruction for him. Adalbert then gives Arx a very serious command: eliminate all the pests who try to get close to her. He means that during the party, Arx must keep away anyone suspicious or anyone who might bother Eleanor. Essentially, he's appointing Arx as Eleanor's bodyguard for the event, very strict and maybe a bit scary father mode. Arx is unaware of the full intensity behind the command and casually says, "Yes, yes," without understanding how serious Adalbert is being. Arx is watching two boys at the party because they look familiar, but he's not sure from where. He stares a bit too long and gets worried they might have noticed him, so he quickly turns away. When he checks again, they've already disappeared. At that moment, Adalbert begins the announcement for Eleanor's entrance. Everyone looks at her as the star of the party. She's wearing an elegant dress, gloves, and looks far more mature and beautiful than usual. Arx sees Eleanor coming down the stairs in her formal dress, and he's completely stunned. His eyes go wide, and he's just frozen, overwhelmed by how beautiful she looks. Eleanor notices him too, and she gently smiles back at him. Arx watches Eleanor walk through the hall, and he's struck by how much she has changed. He thinks to himself that it's amazing how much she's grown in just 3 years and that she looks incredible tonight. Arx is thinking to himself that since he's overseeing the whole event, he can't stay by Eleanor's side, and he feels a bit disappointed about that. Nanai pulls Arx aside and quietly calls his name, clearly worried. Nanai then hesitantly explains the issue. She was supposed to be guarding Eleanor, but something happened. And Arx ends up sitting right beside Eleanor in front of the entire hall, and he's panicking inside, wondering how things escalated to this point. Everyone is staring at them, and Arx can practically feel their eyes on him, thinking, who was that boy next to her? He starts looking pale from the pressure. Eleanor notices and asks softly if he's okay. Arx, frustrated and embarrassed, mutters that of course he's pale and it's her fault for putting him in such an attention-grabbing spot. Eleanor just pouts in response, as if she expected him to deal with it. Eleanor complains that Arx is supposed to be her attendant, yet he's never by her side. She's upset that he's always busy elsewhere. Arx argues that a servant shouldn't sit next to the guest of honor, it's inappropriate. He's worried about how the other guests will view it. But Eleanor snaps back emotionally, saying, Arx is not just any servant. She clearly sees him as someone special and wants him close to her, even during the formal party. Eleanor points out something Arx never thought about. Since they're the same age, his birthday should also be celebrated. She says he should be honored too, not just her. Arx is shocked because he's always seen himself as just a servant. Eleanor then reminds him, no one is celebrating your birthday, right? Arx remembers he doesn't even know his exact birthday, so no one has ever celebrated it for him. That's why Eleanor said he should be celebrated too, because she knows he never had that kind of kindness before. He realizes Eleanor made him sit beside her as an equal guest of honor to give him his own celebration. She wasn't just being selfish earlier, she genuinely wanted him included. Arx is touched and thinks she has a beautiful heart. Arx reflects on how much Eleanor has changed. She used to be gloomy and pessimistic, but now she's grown into a kinder, more confident girl. He thinks there's no way she could ever become the final boss she was supposed to be in the original story. Eleanor wants him to be celebrated too, but Arx humbly tells her, it's an honor, but just having her celebrate for him is enough to make him happy. Arx is focused on making sure Eleanor's birthday party goes perfectly, saying he's doing everything for her sake. Eleanor, flustered and blushing, tries to invite him to spend time with her afterward, but she gets too embarrassed to say it properly. Meanwhile, Arx suddenly remembers the two suspicious boys who disappeared earlier. He grows worried and thinks, I hope nothing happens. Eleanor excitedly leans toward Arx, feeding him food and acting unusually clingy, sparkling with happiness. Arx, however, feels overwhelmed because everyone at the party is staring at them, shocked that a servant is sitting so close to the guest of honor and even being fed by her. Arx internally panics, thinking he's stuck in this situation. Meanwhile, one of the suspicious boys approaches and says hey. A boy steps forward and politely asks Eleanor to dance with him. Arx recognizes him immediately, he's the same suspicious guy from earlier who had been watching them. Arx looks at him closely and suddenly remembers where he's seen him before. His face appeared in the game system screen from Arx's past life knowledge. This means Arx realizes exactly who this boy is in the story's world. Arx finally remembers who the boy is, Razor Kilmond, the son of a Viscount. In the game Arx remembers from his past life, Razor was older when he appeared, so Arx didn't recognize him at first. Arx recalls Razor's personality from the game. He has a bad mouth and a rough, violent attitude. But he becomes deeply loyal to the protagonist, and that unexpected contrast is what made him a very popular character. Razor steps forward confidently and repeats that he wants to dance with Eleanor. Arx is shocked because he realizes who Razor is, one of the romance targets from the Celestia Kingdom in the game he remembers. Eleanor misunderstands the situation for a moment. When she hears dance, she thinks Razor might be asking her, so she asks quietly, dance, with me? She seems confused, maybe even a little nervous, because Razor is being very direct and forceful. Meanwhile Arx stands there caught between them, unsure what's about to happen. Then Eleanor flatly rejects Razor's invitation. She doesn't hesitate, she just says I refuse. Razor is shocked and angry because he expected her to accept. Eleanor explains why. She simply has no desire to dance with him at all. While saying this, she starts blushing and admits, besides, which implies she actually wants to dance with Arx, not Razor. Razor, furious and insulted, lashes out, unable to believe she turned him down so bluntly. Razor gets angry after Eleanor rejects him, so he reaches out toward her. Before he can touch her, Arx instantly steps in and grabs Razor's wrist, stopping him. Razor is shocked and lets out a groan because Arx's grip is unexpectedly strong. Arx then gives him a cold, threatening glare, silently warning him not to lay a hand on Eleanor. Razor is furious that Arx stopped him, so he yells, "Know your place, servant," but Arx doesn't back down at all. He calmly introduces himself. "I'm Arx Leafort, Eleanor Sama's attendant." Then he states his job. My job is to protect Eleanor-sama. While saying this, he tightens his grip on Razor's wrist. Arcs finishes firmly. And I intend to fulfill my duty. Razor winces and stumbles back because Arc's strength surprises him. Razor is shouting, saying Arc's restraint is brutality, insisting he only asked Eleanor to dance. He's acting like he's the victim. Arc stays calm and warns him. Please, calm down. If this situation escalates, it'll bring shame to your family. Razor demands to know why. Arcs explains. Because Razor is a Viscount's son, and Eleanor is the daughter of a higher-ranking noble. If someone of lower rank harms a higher noble or even her servant, it becomes a serious political problem. Razor pretends to calm down, acting like he'll drop the issue if Arcs lets him go. Arcs realizes Razor isn't stupid, just a spoiled brat, and releases him. Razor then smirks, showing he's not actually backing off. Razor suddenly attacks Arcs the moment Arcs lets go of him. Arcs is caught off guard and gets knocked back by the blow. Arcs is completely fed up with him and quietly thinks, what a pain. Razor charges at Arcs again, shouting in anger. Before Razor's attack lands, Arcs calmly casts a sleep spell right in front of him. Razor gets hit by Arcs' sleep spell, he becomes drowsy, collapses, and falls asleep right on Arcs. Arcs immediately calls out to Nanai, asking her to fetch both Kilman-sama and Adalbert-sama to handle the situation. Nanai panics but agrees and runs off. Eleanor rushes over to Arcs, clearly worried. Arcs immediately asks if she is hurt, but she ignores that and snaps back, telling him to worry about himself first. Then she gently cups his face, checking him over and asking again if he is okay. Eleanor gently checks Arcs' face and notices the swelling. Arcs brushes it off, saying it's nothing. But she looks genuinely relieved and says she's so glad he's safe. Eleanor looks shaken and emotional after everything that happened, and, clearly still affected by seeing him get hurt. Razor's older brother shows up and immediately kneeling and bowing with his head to the floor to apologize for Razor's behavior. He's begging Arcs to forgive his little brother. Arcs is shocked, but he quickly says not to worry about it. Arcs asks him to lift his head because Caesar is being too formal. Arcs recognizes him as Caesar Kilmand, another love interest from the original game. Caesar is the kind, gentle prince type, very popular with players. Arcs realizes Caesar probably has a hard time dealing with his troublemaking little brother, and he's the responsible older brother doing the damage control. Arcs asks Caesar if Razor really wanted to dance with Eleanor. Caesar admits yes. Caesar explains that Razor is spoiled rotten, so he believes he deserves anything he wants. Caesar feels guilty because he once told Razor, ask any girl you like, and now this mess happened. Arcs internally thinks, is he a grade schooler, because Razor acts childish. Then he realizes, well, yes, they literally are grade school age, so it makes sense. Arcs asks what will happen to Razor after causing trouble. Caesar hesitates, then explains the truth. Razor will probably be punished very severely. In fact, Caesar says that exile is the least punishment Razor might receive, depending on what Adalbert-sama, the father/head of the family, decides. Arcs is shocked because exile is a huge punishment, especially for a child. Arcs hears the word exile and gets overly excited because it feels like something straight out of a fantasy story. Then he realizes that reacting that way was bad. Arcs explains that even though Razor is only 10, in this world he's already treated somewhat like an adult, so his actions have serious consequences. Arcs thinks that maybe it would have been better if Razor stayed asleep so he wouldn't have to face punishment. But Arcs also senses there's more to the situation, something important. Arcs realizes something huge. By knocking out Razor and preventing the original event from happening, Razor's entire romance route in the game is now closed. In the Otome game, Razor was supposed to be one of the love interests. But because the story changed, his path can no longer happen. Arcs wonders if the whole world is starting to move away from the game's original plot. And with that hope, he thinks, if Razor's route can change, maybe Eleanor's tragic fate can change too. Eleanor runs to Arcs, worried because he was gone for a while after the fight with Razor. She asks if he's okay. Arcs smiles and reassures her. He's completely fine. The only reason he took so long was because Razor and Caesar had to apologize properly. Plus, there were witnesses, so nothing serious happened to him. Arcs apologizes to Eleanor because he feels like the fight with Razor ruined her birthday party. He's embarrassed and thinks he caused trouble. But Eleanor immediately rejects that idea. She gets upset that he's blaming himself and says, none of this is Arcs' fault. The blame lies completely with Razor, who acted terribly. She even calls Razor a bandit, showing how angry she is on Arcs' behalf. Arcs is blaming himself again. He thinks the whole incident with Razor happened because he didn't remember the game's story soon enough. He believes that if he had checked the guest list earlier, he could have prevented Razor from being invited at all. He feels guilty and thinks he was careless or naive. Meanwhile, Eleanor is watching him quietly. She can tell he's blaming himself too much, and she's about to respond, likely worried and wanting to stop him from putting all the responsibility on his own shoulders. She calls his name gently. Eleanor suddenly steps forward and grabs Ark's face with both hands. She does this because she can see he's blaming himself too much, and she wants to stop him and make him look at her directly. Eleanor tells Arx that as long as she has him, she doesn't care about anyone else. This is her way of reassuring him. She wants him to stop blaming himself and understand that he is the person she trusts and values the most. Arx is shocked because this is extremely direct and emotional coming from her. He didn't expect her to say something so intense and heartfelt. Eleanor is embarrassed but trying to cheer Arx up. She tells him the party isn't necessarily ruined, and then, gathering her courage, she asks him, "Would you like to go outside with me?" Arx casually asks Eleanor if she danced with anyone at the party. She answers, "No, I didn't dance with anyone." Her expression shows she's a little embarrassed. Arx is surprised because he assumed she must have already danced with someone. Eleanor tells Arx that she rejected every boy who asked her to dance. Arx is shocked and asks, "Why would you do that?" The narration explains that, in noble society, dancing is very important. It's how people build social bonds and show status. So turning down every offer is unusual and even socially risky. Eleanor finally admits why she rejected everyone who asked her to dance. She tells Arx that she wanted her very first dance to be with him. She blushes and explains that she even wanted to ask him the day before, but she didn't have the courage. Arx finally understands why Eleanor was acting weird earlier. She was nervous about asking him to dance. He feels unsure and asks if she's really okay dancing with someone like him, since he's never danced before and doesn't feel confident. Eleanor reassures him by saying she's not very good at dancing either, and then hints there's another reason she wants to dance with him. Eleanor leads Arx to a quiet, hidden spot outside where no one can see them, not even the moon. She's trying to reassure him so he won't feel nervous about dancing. She tells him that even if he messes up or trips, she'll be the only one who sees it, so he doesn't have to be embarrassed. Eleanor formally holds out her hand and asks Arx to take it, inviting him to dance. Arx responds politely, saying the honor is his. Then the scene shifts to the two of them actually beginning their dance together under the night sky, looking at each other closely. It's a romantic, gentle moment showing their first dance. Right after Arx and Eleanor dance, a bunch of nobles suddenly rush up to Arx. They're super impressed by him and start desperately trying to recruit him, offering money and even asking him to become a servant in their household. Arx is completely confused and overwhelmed, hence his expression. Arx now understands why all the nobles are crowding him. They were impressed by how he confronted Razor and how skilled he was with magic. They're excited and keep trying to recruit him. Arx gets overwhelmed and tries to calm himself before politely turning them down. But then he notices Eleanor from the side. Arx tells the nobles he can't work for them because he's Eleanor-sama's servant. He says it proudly and without hesitation. Eleanor hears this and gets flustered, then super happy, because it sounds like Arx is choosing her over everyone else. So the long birthday party has finally ended. Arx thought he could relax now that everything was over. Arx realizes he still has to help clean up after the party, even though he thought the event was finally over. He's tired and wishes he had an easier job next time. While he's working, someone knocks on the door and calls out to him. Nanai arrives and happily announces that the entire cleanup is already finished. Arx is shocked, and she explains that everyone worked faster because they were inspired by how hard Arx was working. Arx realizes the cleanup went fast because everyone worked harder after seeing him do his best. He feels a bit embarrassed, but Nanai tells him that Eleanor enjoyed the party, so all his effort was worth it. Arx smiles, agreeing that making her happy was enough for him. Nanai says that watching Arx today reminded her of a birthday party she once made for her childhood friend when they were both orphans. The party was small, but she did everything just to make her friend smile. Seeing Arx work so hard for Eleanor made her feel the same way she did back then. Nanai casually comments that Arx and Eleanor seem like childhood friends, so he's shocked and confused, thinking, childhood friends with her. In the Otome game, Arx knows Eleanor never had a childhood friend. But Nanai is talking as if Eleanor did have one. This makes Arx think, wait, is there someone like that in this world? Did that ever exist in the game's story? He realizes something is off, meaning this world might be different from the original game more than he thought. He already knows he's not supposed to exist in the original game story, so changes in the world should feel normal to him, but this change, Eleanor supposedly having a childhood friend, makes him feel uneasy. Arx is still shaken from his uneasy feeling, so Nanai notices he looked distracted and asks if he's okay. He brushes it off, saying he was just lost in thought. Another maid calls Nanai for help, so she leaves, still cheerful and energetic. Arx replies yes, but he's obviously tired and mentally drained. His thought bubble shows what he's really thinking. I gotta finish my work too, so sleepy. Arx suddenly remembers something important. He was supposed to visit Eleanor after the cleanup, but he accidentally fell asleep. Now he panics. This is bad, because he forgot. She'll be upset about this for a week. He knows Eleanor will take it personally. Arx goes to Eleanor's room to apologize for being late, but everything is silent. He knocks and calls her name, expecting no answer because it's already very late. He assumes she's asleep. Since she doesn't respond, he thinks, I'll just apologize tomorrow morning. No point waking her now. But just as he's about to leave, her door creaks open by itself. Arx suddenly gets dragged by a dark force coming from inside the room. He loses his balance, slips, and falls hard to the floor while shouting in shock. Arx looks up and realizes something terrifying. Dark, shadow-like tendrils are spreading across the floor. He has no idea what they are, as the darkness creeps closer. Arx is panicking because Eleanor is nowhere to be seen right after those dark shadows attacked him. He calls out her name, looks around desperately, and worries. Where is Eleanor? Is she okay? Arx tries to stand up, but the shadowy dark substance has paralyzed him. My body won't move. He realizes he's being restrained. This is bad. I have to get up. Then he sees someone's legs wrapped in shadows, and he panics. Eleanor shows up in front of Arx. He's confused because just a moment ago he thought something bad had happened to her. But when she appears, he's surprised and unsure what's going on. Arx is shocked because Eleanor appears surrounded by dark, shadowy energy, the same strange darkness that attacked him. She's standing in the middle of a pool of dark, shadowy energy, something unnatural and dangerous. Her expression is emotionless, almost as if she's not fully conscious or is being controlled. Arx calls out Eleanor, Sama, because he's unsure if this is really her. When she quietly says, Arx, it makes the moment even more tense. Eleanor suddenly appears acting completely normal, like her usual bossy, spoiled, cute self. She scolds Arx for being late, tells him he hasn't been eating enough, and excitedly brings him special sweets she made. Arx is confused because just a moment earlier, she was surrounded by dark shadows and looked terrifying and unnatural, but now she behaves as if nothing happened at all. Arx hesitates to eat the sweets because Nanai would scold him for eating so late. But Eleanor immediately says she'll be his partner in crime. Then she suddenly leans in and tries to feed him the sweets herself, acting cute and affectionate. Arx is completely overwhelmed and confused, thinking, how did things even end up like this? Arx asks, what was that magic you just used? Eleanor asks calmly for tea, but she's still surrounded by the dark aura. Arx is scared and obeys, realizing something is definitely wrong with her. Eleanor tells Arx that the strange dark power around her is her Celestia, the unique magic every person in this world is born with. Arx is shocked because he's never seen her use magic before. Her Celestia looks nothing like normal magic, it's dark, ominous, and spreading unnaturally. He asks, since when, because this is completely new to him. Arx already knew that Eleanor's Celestia in the original game was a dangerous, corrupted power. In the game, she used this exact dark magic to hurt people and cause tragedies. It was part of her villainous route. So when he sees her using that same power now, in real life, he panics because this is the same magic she used for horrible things in the game. He's afraid this means her dark fate is starting. But she's behaving kindly toward him, which doesn't match the game at all. So his fear isn't of Eleanor herself, it's the possibility that her tragic game storyline is repeating. Eleanor explains that her dark power, her Celestia, started leaking out about a month ago, right after she woke up one morning. She didn't choose it, and she wasn't trying to hide it to be sneaky or threatening, she simply didn't know how to control it. Arx is shocked because that's a long time to have such a dangerous power without telling anyone. He's worried because in the game, this power is what leads to her downfall. When he asks, why didn't you tell me, Eleanor begins to answer. Eleanor admits she didn't tell Arx about her power because she was afraid he would hate her. She's terrified of being rejected, especially by him. Arx tries to reassure her, saying that's not true. But inside, he admits something honestly. Seeing her dark Celestia up close was frightening. It made him realize why, in the game's story, she was labeled the cursed child and enemy of humanity. Eleanor tries to playfully show Arx that her Celestia isn't only scary, it can be useful, like extra hands to carry things. She's forcing a smile, trying to make him less afraid. Then she explains what happened earlier. When Arx was pushed down, she panicked, and her Celestia power leaked out on its own. She didn't mean to use it, it was a reflex because she was worried about him. Eleanor remembers the moment earlier when Ark suddenly rushed in and protected her. She was shocked, and her dark power reacted. And everyone staring at her with fear or doubt, which made her finally realize something important. Eleanor thinks she really is cursed. Her dark power keeps leaking out no matter how much she tries to control it, and it scares her. Because of that, she believes Arx will eventually abandon her like everyone else. She says this while smiling sadly, even though she's clearly hurting inside. Arx tries to reassure her that he would never abandon her. Eleanor reveals that the person who once told her she was cursed and then disappeared was her mother. Arx is shocked because Eleanor has never mentioned her mother before. In the game's story, her mother never appears at all. He realizes this is a huge missing piece of her past that he didn't know about. When she was small, her magic was unstable and scared everyone around her. Her mother was the only person who still accepted her, holding her and comforting her while everyone else rejected her. But when Eleanor turned 5, her mother also left the mansion and never came back. People say she returned to her family home and likely doesn't plan to see Eleanor again. Ark is shocked because this is the first time he realizes how completely alone Eleanor has been. Even her own mother abandoned her after being the only one who stayed. Ark is realizing how much Eleanor has suffered. When they first met, her eyes looked sad and empty. Now he finally understands why. Her childhood was full of rejection, fear, and abandonment, leaving deep emotional scars. Eleanor believes her loneliness and suffering are her fate, something she can't escape. Ark is thinking about Eleanor's past. He knows he can't change the fact that her mother abandoned her. Eleanor is convinced that she is unwanted. She believes she is a burden to everyone. Ark reaches out his hand while thinking, even if her mother left, I won't. Ark grabs Eleanor's shoulders and calls out to her urgently, Eleanor-sama, because he wants her to listen. Eleanor is shocked, she wasn't expecting him to reach out like that. Ark then thinks, I want to accept her as she is. Ark is trying to pull Eleanor out of her despair. She believes she's fated to be hated because of her dangerous Celestia, but Ark refuses to accept that. Ark is reassuring her that despite her power or what others might think, he doesn't believe she deserves to be hated and he won't abandon her. He gently tells her, I'll keep holding your hand. Ark panics because Eleanor goes silent after his big emotional confession, so he thinks he messed up and probably sounded weird. She isn't rejecting him at all, she's touched. His awkwardness actually reassures her. Eleanor then starts to smile and chuckle. Eleanor smiles and admits something heartfelt. She was actually hoping Ark would say those words. All his worries about sounding weird or overstepping were unnecessary. His reassurance is exactly what she wanted to hear. Ark, relieved and determined, gently touches her face and tells her, I'll say it as many times as it takes, because I mean it. Ark is holding Eleanor gently, and in his thoughts he says, I want to protect her, as a friend, as a servant, and this means he's realizing his feelings go beyond duty or friendship. Ark is thinking about why Eleanor became the villain in the game's original story. At first, he always assumed it was because of the discrimination and loneliness she suffered since childhood. But now, after hearing her talk about her mother leaving, her fear of being hated, and her belief that she's cursed, Ark realizes something important. Eleanor didn't fall into darkness just because of society. She fell because she had no one who stayed by her side. And then it hits him. In the original story, her childhood friend Ark wasn't there for her. As her childhood friend, he suddenly understands. In the original timeline, Ark, didn't stay by her side. Without him, she had nobody she trusted. That loneliness is what pushed her into darkness. From what we just talked about, it's clear now. It means Eleanor became the villain because she lost everyone she relied on, including him. This is the moment Ark realizes. If he wants to save her, he must stay by her side. Eleanor finally confesses how fragile she truly is emotionally. She tells Ark, if you were ever to leave, I think I might just fall apart. This means Ark is the only person she trusts completely. Losing him would break her emotionally. She's terrified he'll abandon her the way everyone else has, her mother, society, even the original game story. Ark is shocked, shown by his stunned he didn't realize just how important he is to her. This moment confirms what Ark just figured out before. In the original story, Eleanor fell into darkness because she lost the one person she needed most, him. Now she's openly admitting that he's the one holding her together. Ark suddenly remembers the cruel truth of his situation. He isn't meant to stay in this world forever, he's supposed to disappear. While Eleanor is clinging to him, terrified of losing him, Ark realizes that he will be the one to leave her someday, not by choice but because of the story's fate or the nature of his existence. He's shocked and devastated because he now understands how deeply she depends on him, and how badly his disappearance will hurt her. Ark reads the game's information about Eleanor's future and realizes the truth. In the original story, Eleanor becomes the final boss. The reason she falls into darkness is because she loses a close friend. That close friend is Ark. In the game's timeline, Ark dies before age 15, which causes Eleanor's emotional collapse. His death is the trigger that makes her turn into the villain who destroys everything. So Ark understands. If nothing changes, he will die in 5 years, and Eleanor will fall into darkness because of him. Eleanor is smiling and acting happy, but Ark can feel something dark inside her. When she says, "Let me believe what you said," she means she desperately wants to trust him. Her Celestia, her dark power, is convinced Ark will betray her someday. It's not Eleanor herself accusing him. It's the darkness inside her, shaped by her trauma and abandonment issues, whispering, "He will betray you." Ark senses that this belief is rooted deep inside her heart, the same fear that pushes her toward the final boss route. Ark is training extremely hard with the sword, even though he's exhausted and covered in cuts. He insists I'm fine because he's desperate to get stronger. Why? Because he wants to protect Eleanor and avoid the future where she falls into darkness and he dies. So he keeps pushing himself past his limits, refusing to stop. Ark realizes he has 5 years or less before the future where he dies and Eleanor becomes the final boss. So he pushes himself relentlessly, refusing to rest. He keeps swinging his sword because he believes, if I become the strongest by then, I can protect her and change that future. Ark pushes himself too hard during training and nearly collapses. Someone worries and tells him to take a break, but Ark brushes it off, insisting he's fine and that it's nothing. But instructor insisted that's not what he means. Eleanor looks down on the instructor with emotionless stare. She stands a distance after seeing Ark knocked down. Her expression is cold and intense. Instructor thinks, every time I knock you down, the young lady's glare gets more terrifying. The instructor supports Eleanor's wish and decides they'll take a break now, ending the training. As he steps forward, he called Eleanor-sama. Ark then says that she could have just said something, instead of waiting. Eleanor smiles awkwardly and says she didn't want to interrupt Ark, while he was working so hard. He asks about her lessons with Nana, and Eleanor calmly says they're already over. Eleanor then leans forward. Ark, surprised, trying to follow what she means. Eleanor leans in with a teasing smile and tells Ark, "You are welcome to praise me, you know." Ark looks shocked and caught off guard by her sudden confidence. Eleanor seems pleased with his reaction, while Ark awkwardly raises his hand, unsure how to respond. Ark praises her, saying she's amazing, while Eleanor looks surprised but touched. Ark gently pats Eleanor's head, and she smiles with her eyes closed, clearly enjoying it. Ark looks serious and thoughtful, hinting that he is thinking of something important. The scene shifts to on the night of the party. Ark reflects that he's been working desperately to stop Eleanor from falling into darkness, but he realizes the real reason she fell was the death of her childhood friend, himself, in the original story. Ark thought he had shifted the story away from its original path, but reality proves him wrong as events still unfold the same way. He admits that despite all his effort, he hasn't managed to change anything at all. Ark stands alone, overwhelmed by the realization, thinking how futile all his struggles have been. Eleanor is shown consumed by dark energy, symbolizing her future as the final boss. Ark realizes that if things keep going the same way and he dies, she'll become completely ruthless and heartless. He states clearly that this outcome is the one thing he wants to prevent, no matter what. Ark admits he even thought about deliberately pushing her away so she would hate him, hoping that might change her fate. Suddenly, Eleanor calls out to Ark, grounding him in the present and interrupting his dark thoughts. Eleanor looks vulnerable and quietly asks Ark to pet her more, wanting comfort and reassurance instead of being pushed away. Ark realizes that rejecting or distancing himself from her would only be more frightening and damaging for her. Ark awkwardly but sincerely pats her head, while Eleanor leans into the touch, clearly relieved and comforted by his presence. Ark gently pats Eleanor's head. He thinks to himself that he's glad Eleanor has grown attached to him, but he knows it comes with responsibility. Ark admits he doesn't want to die either, showing his fear and vulnerability. He resolves that he has no choice but to become stronger and survive, for both his sake and hers. Then Eleanor quietly stares at him, clearly noticing something is off. Eleanor calmly tells Ark he's been acting strange lately, directly confronting him. Ark reacts nervously, clearly caught off guard and unsure how to respond. Ark thought, "It turned out I am going to die soon. Because of that, you're going to become someone who makes people suffer," and jokes about it internally. He then insists he would never actually say something cruel, even though it's clearly weighing on him. Then the instructor steps forward and asks Miss Eleanor to go easy on him, and explains that Ark just wants to show Eleanor his good side, specifically at the upcoming ritual of trials. Ark is startled and confused when Ritual of Trials is brought up. The instructor then excitedly talks about how Ark got motivated as soon as he turned 10, while Eleanor reacts with surprised curiosity. Eleanor looks at Ark quietly, calling his name, sensing something is off with him. Ark apologizes and says he suddenly remembered something urgent he needs to do, while Eleanor notices he looks pale and unsteady. Ark starts walking away, wobbling slightly, showing he's not actually okay. Eleanor is left behind in silence, watching him go, sensing something is wrong but unable to stop him. Ark's foot steps forward while he thinks, this is bad. Ark mentally scolds himself for forgetting something extremely important, clearly troubled as he starts to realize the seriousness of what he's forgotten. Ark panics as he realizes this ritual is the event where he's most likely to die. The story explains the Ritual of Trials, a ceremony where 10-year-old children enter a dungeon to test their courage and ability. Ark reminds himself that safety is supposed to be guaranteed, but admits that if anything goes wrong, it will happen during this ritual. He stares at his own hand, overwhelmed, wondering what he should do. Ark asks himself what he should do so he won't die. He sighs, calming himself and trying to think clearly. He looks to the side, thinking seriously, and decides he refuses to accept death. Ark opens the door and steps forward, showing he's made up his mind to act instead of freezing in fear. He studies a magic book, focusing seriously learning what he can, and train with a sword, struggling but pushing himself hard. Ark unleashes magic, shocked by its power as it bursts out of his hand, showing real progress. Ark pauses mid-training, tired and thinking, realizing how much effort this is taking out of him. It's the day before the trial, making the tension clear. Ark lies back in his chair reviewing notes and monster info, and realizes the dungeon will have poisonous monsters and mentally prepares for that risk. Ark admits to himself that even after all his preparation, he might still die tomorrow. He slumps at his desk, wishing he at least knew how he was going to die. Ark hides his face, overwhelmed, thinking how unfair his situation is. Ark wonders what kind of death would be enough to push Eleanor into darkness. He stares out the window, trapped between fear of his own death and guilt over what it would do to her. He remembers the future and asks himself, Ark, just how did you? The scene then shifts to forest. Eleanor then asks, we just need to reach the heart of the forest, right? Ark replies and reassures Eleanor. Eleanor trembles, clearly anxious and scared as they move deeper into the forest. Ark quietly grips her hands and says don't worry, and promises he'll protect her, trying to reassure her. Eleanor looks at Ark and quietly asks if he's scared. Ark admits the truth in his thoughts, he's actually terrified, and has been scared ever since he realized he's supposed to die. But, he's about to push past that fear, hinting that he's resolved to keep going. Ark smiles gently and admits that he's more afraid of Eleanor getting hurt than of dying himself. Eleanor looks shocked and flustered by his words, clearly moved by his concern. She hesitates to respond, showing she's emotionally shaken by what he said. Eleanor looks serious and say she'd be relying on him if things become dangerous, showing her trust in him. Ark is startled by her words, clearly caught off guard. He answers quietly and accepts her offer, agreeing with a determined tone. Ark calms himself, thinking that he's already done everything he possibly could. He clenches his fist and steels himself, deciding to trust his own strength and resolve. Ark and Eleanor walk together into the forest, heading toward the Ritual of Trials, both determined but tense, as the trial begins. Deep in the forest, there's a huge rock called the Sacred Stone. Ark and Eleanor needed to arrive at the stone, because the goal of this trial is to claim one fragment of the Sacred Stone by yourself, and this trial must be completed on their own without outside help. As Ark noticed something rustling in the bushes, and wonder if the guards here are a bunch of rookies at hiding. He remembers that strong monsters usually doesn't appear in this area, and in any emergency, there's over 10 guards already on standby to protect the noble's children. Eleanor then notices Ark distracted and calls out to him. Eleanor then asks if Ark's noticed something nearby. He says it's nothing, just his imagination. But Eleanor then admits, she's also felt like someone has been watching her for a while. Ark reacts quietly, surprised and a bit concerned. He realizes Eleanor's intuition is very sharp. Ark smiles and reassures her, saying, it's okay. He grips his sword and promises that if anything happens, he'll protect her. Eleanor clings to him nervously and says she's counting on him, showing she truly trusts him. The hidden guards watches from the bushes, thanking Ark silently for his help, and Ark wishes for them to try not to be noticed. Then they keeps walking forward. The bushes suddenly rustle loudly, and both Ark and Eleanor turn toward the sound, startled. Ark sharpens his focus, realizing the presence doesn't feel like the guards. He senses something strange and thinks it might be the monster that will kill him, but a small, fluffy creature with a single horn appears and lets out a cue. Arx and Eleanor stare at it in surprise. Arx recognizes it as an almirage and confirms its identity. Eleanor then asks Arx if he is going to attack. Upon hearing the question, Arx warns her not to be fooled, and say, even though it looks cute, but it's actually a bloodthirsty monster. The creature charges with a sharp bonk, its horn aimed to stab. Eleanor screams as the almirage suddenly lunges forward. Arx reacts instantly. He steps in front of Eleanor and swings his sword in one clean motion. He slices the almirage mid-charge, stopping its attack before it can hit her. Eleanor nervously asks, is it over? Arx cautiously lowers his sword and begins to sheath it. The almirage then falls over onto its back, completely still. Then Eleanor notices something strange and comment, there's no blood, and she wonders why is that. Arx explains that he used a technique that only cuts internally, which is why there's no blood. She touches the almirage's body. It looks peaceful, almost like it's just sleeping, and notes that it was bouncing around happily just a moment ago. Eleanor looks down quietly, shaken. Arx notices her reaction and gently asks, are you in shock? Eleanor says it's shocking, but she understands it couldn't be helped. Arx watches her quietly. It explains that to survive, sometimes you have to take a life. The ritual of trials is meant to teach that lesson. Arx thinks proudly that she has grown so much. Eleanor says that even so, it's still sad when something cute dies. Arx agrees with a small smile, saying she's right. She looks at her hands and softly says, if I could. Eleanor says that if she could, she would lock creatures like that away somewhere safe forever, instead of letting them die. She looks sad and conflicted. She hates the idea of killing something cute. As Arx quietly listened to her words, suddenly Eleanor cheerfully says they should get going, acting normal and smiling happily like nothing had happened. Arx feels like something is wrong, but he wonders if it's just his imagination. They continue walking through the forest, but suddenly they stop. Arx realizes this is the place for the trial. They finally arrive at the sacred stone, a huge rock deep in the forest. He then tells Eleanor they should start scraping off a fragment right away to complete the task. They successfully collect fragments from the sacred stone and put them in a bottle. Arx says they've accomplished their goal. Eleanor suggests taking a short break because she's exhausted, while Arx also agrees to her request. Suddenly, he senses something and flinches, hearing a scream. And three boys appear. They then notice Arx and Eleanor ahead of them. One of them says they only fell behind because they got lost. They think it's probably just other commoners taking the same exam. One of them suddenly recognizes him, and Arx reacts in surprise. The boy accuses him, I know you. You're the guy my mom and the others took a liking to, and says, I got yelled at because of you. Arx remembers that a kid was being scolded to follow Arx's example. He realizes the boy might be the same one who got yelled at because of him. One of the boys confirms his identity, so you're Arx, huh? They also point at Eleanor and recognize her too. They call her Crow Girl, clearly singling both of them out. They whisper that she's the Crow Girl their mom and others were talking about, and they're shocked to realize she's actually a noble. Arx glare at them to stop talking, and the boys started to flinch. The boys panic, exaggerate the rumor by calling her a monster crow who'll eat them, and run away in fear. Arx hears them and gets irritated, thinking they're idiots spreading rumors like that. Eleanor grabs Arx's shirt to stop him from going after the boys. She calmly tells him, Arx, please stop, showing she doesn't want him to escalate things. Arx looks surprised and tries to protest, saying, but Eleanor softly asks if he really thought their words bothered her, implying she isn't hurt by the rumors. Arx looks surprised when Eleanor calmly tells him there's no need to worry and that she's used to this kind of treatment. He thinks to himself that he may have become too overprotective, especially knowing his death could push her into darkness. Eleanor turns away gently, and he reflects that she's gotten stronger. He admits he feels a little relieved now. Eleanor leans in close to Arx, and softly tells him that as long as he acknowledges her, that's all that matters. She's smiling gently, showing her feelings are sincere. She implies that his support means more to her than what others say. Arx looks a bit overwhelmed and unsure, thinking to himself, she's gotten stronger, right? He seems relieved, but also slightly conflicted. A guard says that if Arx is around, we might not even be necessary. Another guard thinks to himself that Arx is strong, but he still seems unsure about something. He remembers, Arx urgently asks him to respond immediately if anything happens, saying please, showing he's genuinely worried. He reflects that Arx looked so desperate in that moment that he couldn't just ignore him. The other guard shrugs and says that since nothing actually happened, he feels pretty underwhelmed. One of them examines a footprint and says he doesn't recognize it. He wonders if it might belong to the commoner kids. Even so, the cautious one decides to check on the scouts ahead just to be safe. The other reacts with confusion, surprised he's taking it that seriously. One casually says it's probably nothing and teases the other for being too serious. The two guards walk away. They continue down the path, relaxed and unaware. Dark, shadowy shapes begin creeping in from the bushes behind them. The darkness gathers around someone's feet, hinting something is about to happen. A group of people is gathered in front of the sacred stone, showing others have reached the same place. Ark notices more people arriving and comments that everyone is showing up one after another. Eleanor quietly watches from behind him. He stands with Eleanor and says they've already accomplished their goal, suggesting they should leave soon. But, suddenly the mood shifts as someone shouts loudly, calling for help. Ark steps forward with Eleanor behind him and asks what's wrong, while another boy suddenly rushes in, panicking and shouting that something bad has happened to his friend. The boy hesitates nervously off-screen, saying well, as if unsure how to explain the situation. The panicked boy then grabs his chest, breathing hard, and explains that the friend he was just with moments ago has suddenly disappeared. Ark pauses, confused, repeating gone, as he processes what he just heard. The boy explains that this happened while they were on their way to the sacred stone. He adds that his friend suddenly started acting strange, muttering weird things, with an unsettling dark aura around him. In the background, his friend is seen acting oddly. The friend kept repeating something like home, home, which sounded eerie and unnatural. He recalls how the behavior scared him, so he ran away, leaving his friend behind. Ark listens carefully, thinking that maybe the boy's friend got scared and just wanted to go home, but his expression shows doubt and unease. The boy says he got worried afterward and went back to check, and start to explain what happened next. The panicked boy adds that his missing friend was surrounded by armed adults, which makes the situation feel more serious and suspicious. Ark listens and thinks to himself that the people involved are probably guards from a noble family, trying to make sense of the situation. He thinks the reasons that maybe the adults saw the children acting strangely and tried to take them somewhere safe, though his explanation feels like he's trying to stay rational despite the uneasy feeling, and decides to take action anyway, saying he understands and will go check on things himself. Suddenly, Eleanor calls out to him softly, saying Ark's, her expression calm but concerned. Ark turns to Eleanor and tells her he'll go bring the missing boy back, asking her to wait there for a bit. She stays silent, facing away from him. Ark hesitates and calls out to her politely, Eleanor-sama, trying to get a response. Eleanor reacts with a quiet humph, clearly displeased, her body language showing she's not happy about being left behind. Ark awkwardly tries to rationalize the situation, thinking it's understandable she'd feel uneasy about being left alone, and assumes she's just sulking. Ark gently reaches out and holds Eleanor's hand, trying to reassure her before leaving. He leans closer to her and promises softly that he'll be back soon. Eleanor looks up at him, surprised but attentive, her expression softening. After he pulls back, Eleanor places a hand over her chest, her face turning calm yet slightly emotional. She quietly responds that she understands, accepting his decision even though she still seems a bit uneasy. From behind, Eleanor quietly tells him to be careful, her voice gentle but filled with concern. Ark turns back with a bright, reassuring smile, telling Eleanor confidently that he'll be right back. His tone is light, trying to ease her worries. The moment lingers with a soft, calm atmosphere as they part, emphasizing her worry and his determination before he leaves. The scene then opens on dense bushes and trees, creating a quiet but tense atmosphere as Ark moves deeper into the forest. Ark calls out to the guards, raising his voice and asking them to come out, identifying himself so they won't see him as a threat. He pauses, realizing something is off, thinking it's strange because the guards were supposed to be nearby watching over them. But the forest responds with silence. And the only reply he got is a faint rustling sound from the bushes, making the emptiness feel even more unsettling. Ark stops, breathing heavily, clearly tired and uneasy. He looks around the dark forest and realizes there's not a soul anywhere. The silence makes the situation feel even more wrong. He questions where everyone could have gone, his expression showing confusion mixed with growing concern. Trying to reason it out, Ark wonders if he simply missed the guards, thinking maybe they left to guide the lost child back. Still uncertain, he considers returning to Eleanor for now instead of wandering deeper alone, as the uneasiness in the forest continues to build. Suddenly, a faint rustling sound comes from the bushes nearby. A close-up of his eye shows his shock and growing unease, realizing something is clearly wrong. Ark suddenly finds himself standing alone in a much darker, unfamiliar part of the forest. He looks around, confused, asking himself how he even got there, as if he doesn't remember walking this far. In the distance below, faint silhouettes of several people can be seen moving together, suggesting others are nearby, but separated from him. The boy then asks with concern whether Ark is going to be okay. His posture and the small reaction marks show he's worried about him. Eleanor asks if he is talking about Ark, and the other confirms it. Eleanor then speaks calmly. She reassures him that Ark will be fine, calling him a truly amazing person. She recalls how, even when they encountered monsters earlier, Ark handled everything calmly, reinforcing her confidence in him. And lastly she say, besides, suggesting she is about to add another reason. A close-up of two hands holding each other appears, paired with the memory of a promise, I will never let go of your hand. This feels like a flashback or something Eleanor is recalling to comfort herself. Eleanor's eyes shows quiet determination. Despite the situation, she firmly believes Ark wouldn't abandon her, there's no way he would leave her behind. Standing alone, her long hair flowing gently, Eleanor reassures herself out loud that Ark promised he would return. Even though he's gone, she clings to that promise, showing both her trust in him and a hint of loneliness. Eleanor looks down slightly and responds calmly, saying they shouldn't worry and should just wait for him. Even so, her expression hints that she is worried, despite trying to stay composed. In the next panel, the boy lets out a small laugh. When asked what's funny, he brushes it off, saying it's nothing. Then the boy asks her directly, "You really care about him, don't you?" Her eyes goes wide upon hearing it, suggesting she is caught off guard by the question. The boy cheerfully comments that she and Ark must be really good friends, catching her off guard mid-reaction. Eleanor looks a bit flustered and quiet, her cheeks slightly flushed, showing she's still processing her feelings after being asked about Ark. Eleanor lowers her gaze, her expression soft but conflicted. She hesitates, saying, I suppose we are, right, but clearly unsure how to define their relationship when it comes to Ark. Her thoughts deepen as she reflects, when it comes to Ark's, suggesting her feelings are more complicated than simple friendship. The boy then apologizes, saying I'm sorry for getting you dragged into this mess, shifting the focus. She quickly responds saying, not at all, but a close-up of her eye shows a hint of sadness, indicating emotional conflict. A wider shot shows him alone in the forest, emphasizing how isolated he is as he moves forward cautiously. Ark steadies himself, taking a breath and telling himself to calm down. He decides that instead of panicking, he should investigate the situation carefully. He starts analyzing the situation logically, thinking that there shouldn't be any monsters in this forest capable of such strong magic. This makes the situation feel unnatural. He considers the possibility that he's trapped in some kind of illusion or magical barrier, realizing this might not be a normal forest anymore. Still unsure, he briefly questions whether it could just be his own bad sense of direction, but he clearly doubts that explanation. His thoughts shift to concern, wondering if Eleanor is safe, showing that even while lost, his priority is her well-being. Then, a close-up of his eye shows sharpened focus as he looks at something. From behind, he sees a small figure standing alone in the forest. Ark wonders if this is indeed the missing kid, stepping closer. He then cautiously asks if he might be the lost child everyone been looking for. His tone is careful, but hopeful, but he sensed something about the situation feels off. Suddenly, the figure is revealed to be surrounded by dark, shadowy energy. The child's appearance turns eerie, and a distorted laugh breaks the silence. As the figure stands before him, the unnatural aura thickens, and Ark's eyes sharpen with realization this presence isn't human. A burst of force erupts between them as Ark reacts on instinct. His arm snaps forward, the impact explodes outward in a violent shockwave, scattering leaves and tearing through the stillness of the forest. The thing before him flickers between shapes, its face a warped, hollow void, its body a shifting silhouette that barely resembles a human form. A cold realization grips him as his breath catches. What the hell? Before he can steady himself, the creature moves. It doesn't run and it dives, its body stretching unnaturally as it launches straight at him, a grotesque grin splitting across its shadowed face. Ark is shocked as the monster's body doesn't behave normally. It explodes into a mass of black, shifting fragments instead of collapsing like a real creature. Even so, he reacts quickly and swings his sword again, cutting through the shadowy mass as it lashes toward him. While fighting, he realizes something is wrong. This forest was only supposed to have weak monsters, yet this creature is clearly far more dangerous than it should be. Ark's clash with the creature continues as the forest echoes with sharp, violent impacts. Each strike sends flashes of light through the darkness, but the monster doesn't falter, it only laughs, its distorted face stretching into that eerie grin as it lets out a mocking, high-pitched cackle. Breathing hard, Ark steadies himself, realizing this isn't a fight he can drag out. The creature isn't weakening, and its strange, shifting body makes it hard to land a decisive blow. As he faces it head-on, a tense understanding settles and this isn't an easy opponent. They're evenly matched. That thought tightens his resolve. A prolonged battle would only put him at a disadvantage. Gripping his sword more firmly, Ark prepares himself, knowing he has to end this quickly before things turn worse. He grips his sword tightly and channels his strength into a single attack. Flames begin to gather around his blade, growing more intense as he prepares a powerful spell he recognizes well, one that was devastating even in the game. With a determination, he declares he'll end it here. Then, in one swift motion, he swings. A blazing arc of fire erupts forward, cutting through the forest with explosive force. The flames surge toward the shadowy monster, engulfing everything in their path as the attack lands with a thunderous impact. As the flames burst around him, he drops low, breathing heavily, thinking he's ended it. Ark stands there, breathing heavily, staring at the aftermath of his attack as flames crackle and the ground smolders. For a moment, he thinks it might be over. But he feels something wrong. The hit didn't feel solid, like his blade and flames passed through something unstable rather than truly striking a body. Doubt creeps in as he questions whether he actually defeated it. Then, from within the fading flames, a dark shape begins to rise again. The creature reforms, its glowing eyes flickering through the smoke as its voice echoes eerily, whispering broken words about going back, home. A sudden blast of scorching wind erupts around Ark, sweeping through the forest with violent force. He instinctively raises his arm to shield his face, eyes widening as he feels the intense heat against his skin. The air itself seems to burn, making it hard to even keep his eyes open. The gust grows stronger, howling past him and distorting his vision. Ark struggles to focus, realizing he's losing sight of the creature in the chaos. The scorching wind suddenly dies down, leaving the forest eerily quiet. Ark lowers his guard slightly, breathing hard as he looks around. The creature is nowhere to be seen, only faint, glowing remnants linger in the air. For a brief moment, he wonders if it's finally over, if the monster simply disappeared. But that moment doesn't last. A sudden impact slams into him from behind. Ark gasps in pain as his body jerks forward, caught completely off guard. His eyes widen in shock, unable to understand how it got so close without him noticing. Ark's body is still reeling from the surprise attack when three figures suddenly appear behind the creature. His eyes widen in disbelief as he recognizes them, his companions, the ones who were supposed to be missing. One of the guards immediately reacts, drawing his weapon and charging forward to attack him. Without hesitation, Ark gathers his strength and raises his hand again, forcing out another spell, Grand Blaze, despite the pain still coursing through his body. Ark staggers slightly, still catching his breath, but his mind is already racing as he looks past the shadow creature toward the figures behind it. His companions stand there, alive, but something feels wrong. A cold realization begins to form as he studies them carefully. The guards of Ansiness shouldn't be acting like this, there's no reason for them to suddenly turn or behave abnormally. His eyes narrow as he pieces it together, they aren't acting on their own. Someone is controlling them. Meanwhile, the shadowy creature tilts its head, its glowing eyes flickering as it repeats a single word, home, in a distorted, almost confused voice, as if clinging to a faint memory. Ark's grip tightens on his sword. If someone can control trained guards like this, then the power behind it isn't ordinary. He concludes grimly that the enemy must be using an incredibly strong hypnosis spell. Ark reacts instantly, refusing to give up. If fire wasn't enough, he decides to switch tactics, channeling magic into a sharp, slicing attack. With a shout, he unleashes Wind Blade, sending a cutting gust straight toward the shadowy figure. The air tears forward with force, slicing through the space where the creature stands. But in the next moment, his heart drops. It dodges. And the figure slips away. Ark's gaze snaps toward the darkness, his instincts screaming that something isn't right. For a brief second, he thinks the creature might have fled, but that thought immediately crumbles. His eyes widen as he realizes it didn't just run, it chose a direction. And that direction, far away, unaware of the danger closing in, she stands quietly, her expression calm yet distant. The situation has shifted completely. What was supposed to be a simple trial has turned into something far more dangerous. And now, the mysterious monster is heading straight toward her direction.